Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and this is the paper talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford as usual, and the weather's all right. I was debating whether to put my parka on, but I decided to go for it. Now, as you would expect, most of the news this morning focusing around Jadon Sancho and when or if he's going to be coming to Manchester United. It now seems more likely when rather than if. And latest reports are that Manchester United have sort of reached, or that Dortmund and United are on the same page, shall we say, that are in agreement when it comes to the transfer fee and how that will be paid by Manchester United for Jadon Sancho. Now, the reports coming from Bild in Germany last week that United had made a £98 million bid and that wasn't accepted. Now, however, those reports turned out to be more than likely untrue. We spoke to James Cooper at the time those reports came out, and he said he'd take them with a pinch of salt. And it seemed that United hadn't made a concrete offer, that the talks were underway, or that the feelers were being put out to see whether United could get Jadon Sancho for the price that they wanted, which was around the sort of 80 million, 90 million pound mark, or whether we'd have to pay what Dortmund were after, which is around 110 million pound mark. Now, the latest reports coming from Bild are that Manchester United and Dortmund are sort of in agreement on how the fee should work and how it should be paid. They're saying that, Bild are saying that there would be instalments of around £63 million for Sancho, and then a further 2 instalments of 27 million and then 18 million, so that it'd be a structured deal and that there'd be 3 instalments, bringing it up to around the price that Dortmund are asking for. Now, when it comes to transfers like this, big transfers, we know that a lot of them are structured in similar ways. We know that, as I said last week, if you were watching the paper talk last week, I mentioned the fact that Anthony Martial's initial fee was around 36 million and it rose up to 50 million, hence the chant, 50 million down the drain, if he won things and if he achieved things like the Ballon d'Or, which may seem a little bit ambitious, but that was how highly Anthony Martial was regarded as a teenager, and who knows, it could still happen. Now, when Manchester United went into negotiations with Crystal Palace for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, for example, United tried to do a deal where we'd give them more money if we won the Champions League, and Crystal Palace were sort of laughing at that because we weren't even in the Champions League, so the idea that we structured the deal based around caveats like that just didn't seem realistic, and in the end we ended up paying around 45-50 million up front, which is what we paid for him in total, more or less as an upfront fee, because there wasn't a way that Palace were willing to accept a structured deal. However, this seems a little bit different. We know that with the coronavirus and the pandemic, it's obviously affected revenues in many cases. I think Dortmund are aware of that. Dortmund, they are a selling club. They're a bit different in the sense that they don't sell players on the cheap. They don't feel like they have to let players go for low prices. They never have done, but they do move players on. We know that ourselves. We've had the likes of Mkhitaryan from Dortmund and Kagawa, of course. And we know that over the years, most of the best players at Dortmund spend a few years then they move on. They go to places like Manchester United or to Bayern Munich. So it is realistic that Dortmund would have to sell Jadon Sancho, and I think that Manchester United are obviously front of the queue, and that the interest for Manchester United is real. It's just how that deal is structured, because we know from earlier reports that Dortmund wanted around £110 million. I think it was Michael Zorc, the sporting director of Dortmund, came out and he said that was the figure they were looking at. The reports that United wanted to pay much less, but it seems now an agreement has been reached into what will be paid and how it will be paid, so we can expect that deal to move forward. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously will be keen to get the deal done before the season starts. The new season starts. We know that after European football, there isn't much of a long break, and then the season kicks off. Now, there were some early reports sort of the beginning of the weekend that Manchester United could use a bit of brinkmanship. We could delay it like we did with Bruno Fernandes, where we sort of wait till the 11th hour to try and drive the price down. But it seems more likely now that Manchester United and Dortmund are in an agreement. We know how the deal's going to be structured, if the reports in Germany are to be believed, and we know the price is going to be around the price that Dortmund want, but United can be happy because they're not paying it all up front. So expect to see some movement on that this week. It seems that that's gathering speed now. The parties are on the same page, and we know that Jadon Sancho is open to the idea of coming to Manchester United, so it seems like a case of when rather than if. Now, another story that came out this weekend was that United are in for £27 million Lille defender Gabriel Magalhaes. Now, forgive me, my pronunciation is terrible. I've probably got that completely wrong, how I pronounce that. But he's a 22-year-old from Lille. He's highly rated. Now, this came out, I think it was Mohamed Boufassi mentioned this for RMC Sport. They're quite highly regarded, if I get my words out, in France. So it seems that he could be on United's radar as a partner for Harry Maguire. Now, United have been linked with several defenders over the past year or so. They've been linked with the likes of Koulibaly, which is one that keeps doing the rounds. There was talk of Nathan Ake that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quickly dismissed. That came off the back of what it appeared to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mentioning the fact that he wanted Nathan Ake to look after himself, or good luck, we need a left-sided centre-back, or words to that effect, following United's game against Bournemouth. However, that may have been sort of misinterpreted. So United could be in the hunt for a defender, and a £27 million 22-year-old certainly would seem to fit the bill. As I said, he's highly regarded, and the person that broke the story, MC Sport, again, they're quite reputable. You have to see how this one pans out, and I'm taking this with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Yes, United could be in the market for a defender. We know that it's often spoken about how Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, whilst they've done okay and done quite well in some games, they have looked a little bit shaky at times, and there is a feeling that maybe Harry Maguire needs someone different next to him, because we know Harry Maguire's not going to get dropped. He's not going anywhere. United have just paid 80 million up to 85 million pound for him, so he's not going to be moved on. He's the captain. He's not going to be dropped. The question is Victor Lindelof. We've still got, though, some good defenders, and I think that when you look at the likes of Axel Tuanzebe, for example, is he going to get a chance next season? He's had an awful season this season in terms of injuries, but I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's given up on him yet. He had a fantastic season 2 seasons ago, or the season before last, at Aston Villa. He's still only young. He's still high regarded. He's still someone that we know can do a job at United, or we think can do a job at United. So is he going to be ignored? Eric Bailly is another player who, whilst he has his problems with injuries and getting a run of games, he's still a very talented defender. So do we expect Eric Bailly to be moved on? I don't. So we'll have to wait and see whether this happens. But £27 million for a 22-year-old defender who's had a great season at Lille. I think they finished 4th. Sort of does make sense. It does make a lot of sense. So we'll have to see whether that pans out. As I said before, it came from a fairly reputable source. So there's a chance it could happen, and at £27 million, it doesn't break the bank for Manchester United when we're pursuing other targets like Jadon Sancho, who were mentioned earlier. Now, another story that came out this weekend, which is one that I'm going to take with a hefty pinch of salt, was one regarding Kasper Schmeichel coming to Manchester United. A few of the tabloids in England picked up on this and were running this story that United were interested in the Leicester City goalkeeper. Now, Kasper Schmeichel is a very good goalkeeper. He's obviously won the title at Leicester. He's 32 years old, which in goalkeeper years isn't that old, and the thinking behind this was that maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would look to bring him in for a couple of seasons whilst Dean Henderson went back to Sheffield United on loan, got ready to come to Manchester United and become number one, and we moved David De Gea on, because David De Gea has had a bit of a ropey season, shall we say. Towards the end of the season especially, there were 1 or 2 performances that were below par. His form was below par even. His form wasn't great, so there was a sort of thinking that David De Gea would be dropped for Dean Henderson. Now there's this story coming out that Kasper Schmeichel could be coming in for him. I don't think this will happen, if I'm being brutally honest. It just seems highly unlikely that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to bring in a goalkeeper like Kasper Schmeichel, the 32-year-old who, yes, can still do a job at the Premier League level. We know that, for example, Edwin van der Sar was older than that when United bought him. I'm not saying that Kasper Schmeichel's at that level, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that United sign a 32-year-old keeper. I just don't see it happening, if I'm being brutally honest. I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got a decision to make. He either sticks with David De Gea or he brings in Dean Henderson. I don't think he goes outside of that and brings in someone like Kasper Schmeichel. It just seems highly unlikely. There's every chance United could go for him and could get him. We know that we've had players, as I mentioned earlier, Harry Maguire from Leicester before. Kasper Schmeichel has had a good season. Has he had a season as good as Dean Henderson? I don't think he has. I think Dean Henderson's arguably been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. So bringing in Kasper Schmeichel, not giving Dean Henderson a chance, and moving David De Gea makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Another story that was doing the rounds, I think this morning, was that Manchester United officials are frustrated with some of the bogus transfer news that is coming out about the club. They're saying that the reports that we were in for Wolves, Raul Jimenez, I think it's Jimenez, were utter nonsense. That's how they're describing it. Those are the reports. I think that was in the Daily Mail. Now, you can say that as you was, because some of these papers run these stories that United are in for the Wolves striker, and then we'll run the story that United say it's utter nonsense. So it has gone cool on that story in particular, but United are moaning about the facts, or unhappy at the fact that some of these stories are being published in the press and they're utter nonsense. We bring you the stories. You can make your own minds up. We tell you whether we think a lot of them are true or not. Stephen Howson obviously does his transfer rating and his review and things like that, and we'll always tell you whether we think there's a real truth in the matter. And we'll speak to some of the Tier 1 journalists as well and get their take on it. As I spoke to you, as I said earlier, we have spoken to the likes, especially on the Tier 1 podcast, the likes of Henry Winter, the likes of Simon Peach, the likes of James Cooper, to get their take on some of the stories that have been doing the rounds. Now, we've spoken about players that could be coming in. One player that may not be going out just yet, who we thought is Chris Smalling. It seems that Roma have given up on Chris Smalling, as reports this morning, after United rejected their final offer yesterday, or on Sunday, with the club holding out for a bid of over £80 million before selling the defender. We know that Chris Smalling has had a fantastic season at Roma. He's sort of played a lot of games for them. He's been a real success there, and there was a feeling that Roma were very keen to get the deal done, that they wanted to bring him in on a permanent basis, and we could understand that. United were happy to let him go. He's surplus to requirements here. He's still a very talented defender, I think, Chris Smalling. It's just the issues around consistency that have plagued him, really. But it doesn't look like he's going to be going to Roma. Now, where he does end up remains to be seen. I don't think long-term, or even short-term, he's going to be at United very much longer. I think he may end up coming back here for a little while, but United will be looking to move him on, and if anything, he's done himself a massive favour with his performances in Serie A this season. His stock is quite high now, so I wouldn't be surprised if another Italian club came in for him, or he moved abroad, or maybe even the Premier League. He's still, as I said earlier, he's still a highly regarded defender, Chris Smalling. I know a lot of United fans don't think he's up to it, and maybe, if we're being brutally honest, he isn't up to it here at Manchester United anymore, but there's no reason why someone else couldn't come in for him, and he couldn't do a top-level job. Chris Smalling is a defender who's won lots of trophies, put in a lot of good performances, was an England international, and he's still got a future ahead of him. So we'll wait and see what happens with Chris Smalling. It doesn't look like he's going to Roma. I don't expect him to have a long-term future at Manchester United. United are apparently holding out for 18 million, which kind of makes sense. I know that you want to move him on, but you don't want to get your pants pulled down. He is a very talented defender, and I think a defender of that calibre, with that experience, that's had the season he's had, in the current climate, even with the pandemic, we should be getting £80 million at least for him. Now, another deal, one coming in, that was doing the rounds, is the idea that Manchester United have opened talks for Monaco ace Benoit Badiashile. I hope I've got that right. You know my pronunciation, so bear with me. Now, he's at Monaco. He's broke into the Monaco team at the age of 17. He's had 41 league appearances to his name. So there's talk that Manchester United could be in. Apparently multiple clubs are in for him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Again, there's going to be lots of rumours. There's going to be lots of these players that are linked with Manchester United at the minute. Some of them, as the club are saying, are utter nonsense. Some of them may have legs. But as always, we'll bring you all the paper talk every morning here outside Old Trafford, letting you know what the latest Manchester United stories are. A lot of them centering around transfers, and the big one this morning is that Manchester United and Dortmund seem to be in agreement over the fee for Jadon Sancho and how that will be paid. So we could hopefully expect Jadon Sancho to be moving to Manchester United very soon, but as always, we'll keep you updated. Make sure you stay tuned to Stretford Paddock. We'll have all the latest updates. We'll have Howson's Brew later on. We'll have the Tier 1 podcast later on this week, and also with United back in action in Europa League, we'll have the previews, we'll have the watch-along, we'll have the fan cams, we'll have all the stuff you're used to and that you like. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what stories you've been hearing, any updates you've got. We know a lot of you guys keep yourselves up to date and up to speed with what's going on, so we're happy to hear from you. We always want to hear from you, and we appreciate the comments and the interaction we have with you guys. So keep liking, subscribing and sharing. I've been Jay. This has been the Stretford Paddock Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.